What's going on, everybody? Hey, Josh, how's it going?
It's great. How are you doing?
Living the dream. So, we are excited that you're here. My name is Corey Baker. For those who don't know me, I am one of the two enrollment guys. And a little brief background on me is I have over 13 years in higher education, both from the admission side and marketing side, as well as campus visits and CRM based. So, a little bit of everything in my experience there. So I'm excited today to be here to talk a little bit about search.
Yeah, and I'm Josh Pastromowitz. I too, very similar to Corey, I have been on the college side for a little over 15 years before joining Mediacross, and was the director of admissions at my last institution. So covering everything from search to campus visit experience, application, implementing a CRM, all the good stuff. So yeah, it's quite a pleasure to talk with you all today. Really quickly, as you will see over to your right, there is a chat box. Feel free to introduce yourself, say hi. If you have any specific questions right out of the gate in regards to search or really anything for that matter. But there is also a question section. So really encourage you, if you have a specific question, hit it there. If we don't address it during the time of the webinar, we'll hit it at the end when we actually have a Q&A session. So yeah, so Corey, you want to get started?
Yeah, definitely. So really to hit it off, we're going to start as like what we know already. And so Josh, I'll let you kick it off and let you see where it goes.
That sounds good. So yeah, so 2020, 2021, I think most like everybody else, we thought we were going to kind of be done through this already. But as you can see, it's enjoying 2020, enjoying 2021. It's just a big dumpster fire of a lot of different things. And we've talked about it before, but it's just been a really tough year for everybody. And so hopefully, as we are closing some of it out, as vaccinations kind of roll out, we can kind of sit back and say, just kind of take a view of everything and say, okay, what can happen? How do we do? Where do we go from here? And so in terms of kind of what we know for search is that approximately 1.5 million students were impacted by SAT cancellations. And approximately 200,000 less students took the ACT this year, which ultimately means there's not going to be as many names to purchase. And so one of the big challenges right out of the gate is knowing that what do we do in terms of our pool is not going to be as big. And this is just going to start a trend that we know in 5 years, graduations are going to go down. So we really need to rethink how we're getting students in that top of the funnel. We've also seen a huge increase in colleges and universities going test optional. Right now, we're showing about a 263% increase. And that, of course, is directly influenced by the pandemic. With the fact that so many students were having such a challenge taking the SAT and the ACT, there were so many unknowns that most institutions really decided to go test optional for the time being. But most have put policies in place that probably for the next 3 to 5 years, they're going to remain test optional to figure out kind of what's going on. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And of course, we all know anxiety across the board is still at an all-time high between students, between faculty and staff. That just anxiety is just remaining high because of the uncertainty of everything.
Yeah, so when do we revamp? And that's always the question. And the true answer is you're already too late. We're already 10 years too late. The dogs are waiting at the door for us to show up, and it's the same stuff. And obviously, by the looks on their faces, this isn't a good look. You've been gone for too long, and they're not happy about it. But really, you basic, it's all old already. So, we talk here, we'll go through this a little bit, but we have the really old school, the old school, the new old school, and the new old school is really what we really think about all the stuff we're doing. And you all it might hit a little too close to home for some of us who went through this stages of, it used to be spring name by and you sent a view book. Then, we're like, okay, we're going to update that. We do spring name buy. We sent a view book, and you got the 10 set of 10 emails sent to all the students. Then the new school is spring and late senior name buys. We sent a postcard and sent emails. We started realizing how much money we were sending on postage and view books that are not cheap. Just sending them out to all these bought names that may or may not be that interested. And then, we got real fancy with the new old school. We're still doing the spring name buy with the late senior buys. You're sending the emails. You might have created a landing page and segmented some postcards maybe. And, so literally it's the same thing. It's just we got a little cheaper towards the end, maybe put that money towards more students potentially. But really when it comes down to it, we can raise our hand if we feel the same way. We all are doing basically the same thing. And it's a wash right now. People are just kind of seeing the same thing over and over again.
Absolutely. And when is the time to change, right? The time is now. Like Corey had mentioned, search is super old school. And even through some modernizations of it, it still is old school. It is archaic. The way that students are searching for colleges and universities has changed so drastically through, the internet, through websites, through social media, that this whole concept of, doing it like I did, where you get the US News and Report book and you flip through with your family and your parents to try to find what's the good fit. We're running search like we're still looking at the old US News and World Report book. It's really, we haven't changed that significantly. But in order for you to change, you have to realize what you're doing. And so you have to take a inventory of what you're currently doing in terms of search. When are you purchasing names? What are you sending out? Are you mailing things? You kind of have to just know and understand exactly what you're doing to figure out, is this working? Is there a better way to do it? And you have to look into your data for that matter. Now we know, and we've said numerous times that 2020 has really screwed up our data significantly, but take that into consideration, right? You still need to look at the data, but it should influence, it shouldn't make the choices for you. And so you do have to take in consideration what 2020 has done, but also look at the historical and see, what is those opportunities to really get more bang for your buck. And your communications are general, and it's assuming that all of these students are exactly alike and they don't know who you are. And so we're talking kind of 20,000 foot view of an institution that they may already be very familiar with. And by you not recognizing that, you're potentially hurting that relationship. And one of the worst, I think, statements that I've heard so many times is that if you yield X amount of students, and it's something small, it's 2-3 students, that what you're spending on search is worth the investment. Well, right straight out of the gate, we call BS.
Okay. Yeah.
It has nothing to do, that may be true, and you may be getting a return to where you may be getting a few students to actually be able to, but the option isn't paying for it. It's how are you getting more students? How are you utilizing your resources, not to get the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, but can you take those same resources and invest them in a different way to be able to get impactful students that fit your criteria and ultimately help you reach your enrollment goals?
Yeah, and so what to do? That we are the 2 enrollment guys, and we're going to identify 2 challenges really that come in, and they're pretty simple. So the 2 challenges are, how do I get names? And what do I do once I get them? And this is going to be changing over time. So by no means are we going to come out today and say, don't buy names. That is not necessarily a smart move, but it's understanding the names that you are buying, but then also looking at other ways to get names into the systems besides the traditional, College Board buying these names and then dropping them into your CRM. And then really we'll talk a little bit about, once you get them, what do we do? And throughout this and throughout my time in higher ed, this photo is Very fitting. There's just so much to do. Where do you even start? And it is about taking the small pieces as you go and be coming up with that plan ahead of time, so that it's not trying to do it all at once. You're doing it kind of proactively so you can go through it. So first and foremost, challenge one, how do I get names? A lot of people, and I think this was guilty today, people dipped lower in their standards in the names that they're buying this year more than ever. And really, these are not the answers you're looking for. So these are not the droids. These are not the students that you are looking for at this time. You just don't buy more and you're going to get more. And you might get a few. Like Josh said, it's that balance, is that old, and it's a great sales tactic. Like if you get 2 students, you paid for all this. So all we need to do is make sure we get those, and then you're going to be good to go. So one thing we really do talk about a lot at MediaCross, and just overall in general when we're talking about how to get names in, is really this organic. And organic, I'm going to use loosely a little bit, due to the fact when I say organic, I'm not saying bought cold leads essentially. But traditionally you're still going to buy some name, but make sure you're using your data when buying these names, picking the students that make the most sense to you. Just when you're expanding your searches, it doesn't always work. It doesn't always mean just expand it to a larger audience. They may not know who you are, and they may not be the right students for you, because you can almost throw your historical data out the window, because it's ever changing. We're always moving and always looking at that opportunity. So you still will buy names, but again, being smart about it. More isn't always better, and looking at that opportunity to maybe decrease your spend in names and then increase, where the second part really goes to, is really digital marketing lead generation. The first thing I will lean on is search is year round. There is no more, we're buying these lists at this time, and that's when search starts. Search is year round, and digital marketing really allows you the opportunity to do this across multiple channels and tactics while you're doing this. So first and foremost, you need to identify your current successful student profiles. That's the successful is the important part. Not only do you want to know the type of student that typically enrolls, but on top of that, do they enroll and are they successful? I think that's a step not every school, but some schools miss along the way, is that they're looking at who enrolled, because as admissions, you care about the enrollment, but really you should care about the enrollment to graduation. Who's being successful there? What types of students go on academic probation and don't succeed? What types of students go in and do succeed? And really the point we're making here in this way is, the ACT, SAT isn't always the prime predictor on that anymore, of student success at a college. There are many other factors that go into that. And so through that, you're identifying successful profiles of students. And then what you can do with those profiles, you can make lookalike audiences, other people out there who look similar. You can do this on social. You can do this across digital marketing channels, where you're actually finding similar people to those who are successful that may or may not be in a bought name list at all, first of all, in ACT or SAT, especially with less people taking it, more schools going test optional. So you're able to reach a group that you may not have been able to touch beforehand. And then the next one really talking about is that search engine optimization, SEO. This should be a very important conversation that you're having often. If the website's ran through the marketing department and not admissions, or depending on if it's in its own web department as well, having real conversations about SEO is going to be important. Do you follow a hub and spoke model, where your spokes all connect to the hub, and that makes your hub go higher in your Google search results or in your search results online? Gathering people who are searching for certain topics through SEO is going to be hugely important. And the one thing, and we'll say it a few times in this process, is you're going to need to make easy web lead gen opportunities. You don't need to know everything on these students. You don't need to always have addresses in order to start communicating with the students. And I'll be the first. I was guilty of, like, if we don't have an address, we can't assign the appropriate counselor to these students, right? That Josh knows what I'm talking about. That was important, but why not put them in quicker by getting less information and put them through a thing that says, hey, we love that you're interested. Here's some information. And then get a little micro experience where you start saying, hey, if you want some mailing, give us your address. If you want this, give us your text, okay to text and give us your cell phone. There's no reason not to get them in sooner with less data than you have. You want to alleviate all obstacles that the forms are too long. And then there are third-party options out there that you can get into. So socially, Snapchat has 51 million users, ages 13 to 24. So think about that. People are hesitant to go on Snapchat, 51 million users, 13 to 24. There are people out there, but even third-party options as well of data you can buy. You can go out and buy data of parents who meet certain criteria, parents who are of teenage students that also do X. There is data that gets really deep down that you can actually have access to and advertise to get to a whole new subset. And literally a part of it, talking with those parents as well in that early conversation.
So one of the big things that I think frustrates me the most, and you're right, Corey, I was totally one that wanted all the data points on a student before I created an inquiry form or an inquiry record for them. And it's just, it's the archaic way of thinking. It's trying to get as much information out there first, and students just don't respond in that way. But one of the things that used to drive me just bonkers about search is I have all your information, I have your contact information, but I'm going to need you to fill out another form to tell me that you really truly are interested. It makes no sense. Where in the world does it make sense that it say I have you already, but you still need to fill out more information of stuff I already have just to tell me you're interested? And this just always help me help you, right? It's this act of desperation that you're trying to get them to really show that they are super interested. And so, engagement is the hand raise now. Most institutions have a pretty robust CRM, and CRMs have really come a long, long way from, even the early time when I started my career in admissions. They've become more robust. A lot of institutions, typically Salesforce or Slate, you can see that engagement. And so asking them to fill out yet something else to get them to an inquiry state isn't necessary. They're opening the email, they're engaging, they're clicking on a link, they're reading what you're providing. That engagement is the hand raise. And most CRMs can put in rules that will actually move somebody into an inquiry status if they open up X amount of emails, or if they click on 2 emails over the course of 4 weeks, or whatever the case may be. They can track that and automatically raise that hand for the student. But this whole concept of just trying to get them to fill out more information to say that I'm interested, those days truly are gone. It's not necessary. And most likely, they're already taking a look at you on your website, through social media, without ever telling you that they're interested, because they want to be as stealth as they potentially can. So it's super important that you talk to them where they're at. Students we know are on social media. TikTok has taken over the world. Thank you, pandemic. So why not communicate through the platforms that they're already using? And I think, especially, when I was on your side of the desk, I was always afraid that I didn't have a robust Instagram account, or we didn't have an admissions TikTok. And so we need to go and create all this content first before we can start communicating. That's not necessarily true. You want to make sure that the engagement or the content that you're creating, it makes sense. Don't just create content for content's sake. But they may not want to see a TikTok by your institution. They may not be ready for that, but they may be ready to be an ad served through TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat, to be able to get that awareness that drives them back to your website. So the call to action is specific or is super important and needs to be specific, because you've got their attention on their platform. And if you haven't already, you really need to invest in a search experience. Corey and I talked a lot about this in terms of, if you're not considering this an experience, you're way off the boat. You're really this has got to be a experience that students want to be a part of and that they want to enjoy. And everything has to fit together to where it makes sense. So you need to make sure that when you're thinking about this, you're not just thinking about emails. You're not just thinking about the website or a postcard or a digital view book. Everything has to come in together in order for a full experience, from the point of, that first touch point all the way through enrollment. And I think that that's probably one of the harder things to do, because that's where like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. Where do we start? And that's why it's super important. Bite size. You got to work it in the bite size, because everything can't be a priority. If everything's a priority, nothing is a priority. And that's when you start to get really bogged down and unsure where to go.
Yeah. And so I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit too, Josh. When Josh's experience, and this is one, having done, the campus visit experience. And, if you're not thinking of your campus visit as an experience, if you're not thinking of your website experience, you're not thinking of and I use experience, and sometimes I'll use the student journey. If you're not thinking of their click journey through a online experience, or those are things that you need to talk about that don't always get talked about. How many clicks does it take to get from here to here? Was it necessary for that, or did you lose them after 3 clicks because it took 4 clicks to actually get them to do the action? Start thinking about those things as you're moving forward. But one thing Josh and I, and before I get started on the slide, talk about a lot is, we always want to give useful information that you guys can run away with and potentially put some of it into effect yourselves. If you're not in charge of the budget, you don't have the budget this year, we don't know about enrollment for this fall, so budgets are frozen. There's lots of factors going on. So what we're going to talk about here, I'll talk through 2 similar but very different experiences that we've worked with clients that run from very large to very small, that allows you to then talk about some things which we'll talk about with communication flows and communication plans. So this first example here is a pretty large digital view book. It's big enough that I almost would explain it as a microsite. And the experience the student gets is, up until application, the microsite is their go-to place for all information. It is spoken to the students in a way that you're not necessarily a student yet, you haven't applied yet, and you're getting that information. What we value about this experience, and why I will use experience a lot here, is it's almost a create your own adventure. There are multiple features that we put into play after multiple iterations of this digital view book. You'll see on the big picture there, we still collect information, but they can skip it if they want. More often than not, we're sending them to this page through emails, through something, so we know who they are already. So they can skip it, or you can even skip going to this first page, put them directly to the page that you're most interested in them going to. And that might change based on the time of year. They may go to the financial aid page during a very important financial aid. They might be on involvement page at a different time. But what is the most valuable in this? The 3 things that I would talk about is, 1, it's full of quizzes. Almost every page has a quiz, and that quiz will curate the information there. So the best example, because there's only 3, it's easy, is it's going to ask you, this is a school in St. Louis, so are you in St. Louis? Are you from the US but not in St. Louis? And are you not from the US? Based on the answer of theirs, there are 3 different things. So they treat the people who are in St. Louis like they know they're from St. Louis, because we just asked, you told us. We don't need to say that St. Louis is this or that. We're going to go deeper of like, why do you need to stay here? What is the benefit of continuing to be a part of this community? If you're from outside, it talks about those benefits of coming in. And then if you're an international student or you're from outside of the US, it talks about those benefits positively and what's happening there. So step 1, it's giving quiz. So you're getting personalized information. And you'll see in the last bullet point, this is all CRM integrated. So you're getting these results and it's pulling into your CRM, which allows you then to customize your communication based on data that because they filled out an itty bitty quiz. It seemed very just very normal, because they're like, oh, I'm going to get content specifically for me on this page. Yeah, I'm going to hit this answer and hit submit. Well, you got that data now. The second thing that is done really well on this site, if you actually would go to all the way to the bottom, it's very similar to kind of the experience you would get on like Amazon. Like, you may also like, and it's getting pushed to, if you're on a page about involvement, it may send you to an involvement list of all the things you can get involved in. It may tie it quickly to something else. You can choose that adventure for them, so they still make the choice of one of the 3, but you've curated what you would think they would most like, or what you would like their journey to look like, but they're still making that choice. And the last thing that we most recently did is in the top, there is a navigation, and I said there's a quiz on a lot of the pages, but not all. You actually get a little yellow notification if you haven't done the quiz yet. So they're able to quickly find what quizzes they have done and have not. and go in and do the rest of the quiz. So hoping, that, if some of us are different, we do not like notifications on our phone, we have to clear them all out. For those types of students, they're trying to get rid of those yellows. So they're going through that whole experience. So it's a big experience. This is, like I said, it's the place that you go for almost all your information until application. And one of the things I really value about these and what we're able to do, we actually connect this directly to a CMS. So our client is actually able to update text as new programs are added, or they can change images to make sure it makes sense. So it is ever evolving as the school continues to evolve and as the school year continues, without an additional cost to go have somebody go update that text for you. So this is an example of that really big cost, a really big website, which does come with a cost. But as it states here, if you're going to reduce your print costs, because most of this is going online now, and you're getting fulfilled, you're not doing as much in postage, so you're investing in a different way, is what Josh also talked about earlier. You buy a few less names that don't make sense, invest it somewhere else that makes sense. Then on a similar way, in a much smaller fashion, how can you still have engaging content and use quizzes to engage student, but in more of a two-page here? So this is an example where we did a like, who will you be at IC quiz, and really it was to find out, we really grouped the types of typical students into 4 groups. And based on following through these questions with GIFs and, a lot more engaging content than just trying to answer a couple quizzes, it's with GIFs, with popular pop culture or memes, and that you're getting them engaging. They're interested in who they're going to be. It's a fun delivery. It's quick to do, and then the results, again, CRM integrated, goes to your CRM. This particular school actually not only did the quiz to get students engaged early, their visit days all revolved around those personas that they find out who they are, their identity, their IC identity. It also went into directly communication plans based on that identity. Not that it completely gives you a whole new route, it just might be a paragraph different for each one in the normal email you're going to send. So it's consistent marketing messaging. You're seeing it across visits and across the search time, and then again in your messaging that you're getting. Josh, you are on mute. We're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. You're still on mute. Josh, you're still on mute.
Hear me now?
There you go.
Sorry about that. For some reason, the button was pretty hot. Within the communication, it's really super important that you be consistent. And for your conversations with the Conflow, if you've attended a Enrollment Guys webinar before, when we say segmentation and personalization, you may be rolling your eyes because we say it every time, because it is important. It is super important. The days of having a single message flow across every student that you're trying to enroll is impossible. I mean, it's just, you have to personalize it. And so looking at the typical 10 email segment that you're going to get, you really need to ditch it. And that's not to say that all the content is not there, but you need to look at the content and see what can you utilize and what can you personalize. And like Corey mentioned earlier, it's not saying that you have to have 15 different emails all kind of saying the same thing, but we're going to include something else. A lot of CRMs will let you use logic and will allow you to be able to use the same email. But if it's this student, we're going to say it this way. Or if it's this student, we're going to put information about student involvement or events or whatever the case may be. Utilizing the opportunity to allow for that logic, that's really what's key. That's what's important. So it may not necessarily be that you have to have 15 different types of emails. You want to create channels through segmentation. Like Corey had mentioned, location, of course, is important. So if you're talking to your local students as if you're talking about, what there is to do in their hometown, it's not going to be the same as allowing somebody from out of state or an international student. These are all different populations that how you give the information matters. What you say matters. And again, if you're talking to your local students and you're asking them, what do you like about your hometown? What do we need to be telling other students to get them here? Engaging them in a little bit different of a way is really impactful in terms of that, again, experience that you're providing. Create communications that are based on information that's truly unique. We are all guilty of this, but we are all saying the exact same thing. We're touting a small campus community, whether that be 1,000 students or whether that be an institution that's 50,000. You're talking about that like personal connection that you have with your faculty members. This is all information that everybody's saying. So how do you say it, even if it is 100% true, how do you say it in a way that is unique to your institution? How do you tout the things that are truly unique? Or how do you say something in a little bit different way that's gonna kind of clear you out from the competition? And speaking in their voice is super specific. We talked a little bit about this in an earlier webinar, but putting out there your world known faculty. That's great. Faculty are wonderful, but students aren't necessarily gravitating in that fashion. Tell a story by a faculty member that's doing some really great things. Instead of just throwing a stat out there or just saying that our faculty are world-renowned, tell us a story. Give us a little bit more information and a little bit of an investment. And so you've got to be able to not only speak in their language, but in a way that they can then retain it. And then again, you're going to personalize it, but you want to do it in name and in content. So yes, putting their name on something is important, but again, providing information that is important to them. If they've asked or if they've been on your website and you can see that they're checking out financial aid and they're looking at scholarships, giving them that information when you're talking with them. If they're looking at student organizations, putting them in touch with an ambassador that is from that organization that they can connect with, making that content that's specific to them, not just slap their name on it and call it a day or put their, a merge field of their hometown. You really want to be customizing the information that you're providing. And don't forget text and social in your communication plans. Again, it goes back to the website needs to be consistent with the messaging that you're sending in your emails, which needs to be consistent in your social. It also needs to be consistent across every platform so you have a unifying approach when communicating with students. And with text, I would say it's a great opportunity, but just be very careful of what you're providing via a text. I always used it as an opt-in or an option to get information. So I need you to act, I need you to do something, or just general, we send a funny meme because they haven't sent the enrollment deposit yet, or whatever the case may be. It should be less of a, let me tell you about us. It's an engagement, it's a conversation. So just know that when you start texting students.
So, really, what should you stop doing right now? And these are generalized statements, but pretty much true. So, you need to stop just buying more names for namesakes. That should stop. You need to be more strategic in what you're doing. Stop buying more names. Stop asking for information that you need right now if you don't need it. So the big thing I always talk about this and that could be done is request for information forms or send me something forms on the website. They're usually generic and they just say request information. Well, what information am I requesting? And sometimes it's not even clear if you're on a program page, are you going to get university stuff or program specific information because it's across the whole website. Let them pick at the top. Like contact me. I want a view book. I want this. Let them tell you. And then based on that, if they say I want a view book, of course they're going to be willing to give you their address because they want something mailed to them. If they don't want things mailed to them, they're not going to be willing to give that. And then on top of that, the same goes with the phone number. If they want to be text, let's text them. Ask them. One of the first questions could be, request for more information. How would you like to be contacted? Ask for that information, get it going. And I know the goal is connecting this to people who are in your CRM and that are tied, and most times, more often than not, they'll match based on email. And so most emails they'll put in there, and honestly be transparent, honest. Says, we want to make sure we know who you are. Make sure you put your email here, and it'll help us, organize communication specifically for you. Stop talking to all students like they're the same. This is gonna be true forever. They are not the same. Stop doing it. And this is that bite-sized pieces that we talk about a lot too. The example he gave is local, not local, and out of the US. That is one of the smallest and easiest ways of talking about that is 3. You can break that into the other sections. Maybe you have a large grouping that always comes from Chicago, for example. Talk to Chicago students like they're from Chicago. Joke about bringing Giordano's pizza to the visit day. Joke about bringing Portillo's to the visit day. Have that fun. They know that you know where they're from and that you know them and something about their town. Even if you're not close to Chicago, but you have that kind of following, do what makes sense to the data of the students that not only are going to enroll but be successful in the areas that's going to do that for you. And maybe you start with one area. In my Chicago example, maybe next year you add Boston because it's also a good lead for you. And I'm using bigger cities. It may be regional. It might be parts of the state for some of the schools. Really think about that. So stop talking to them like they're all the same. And at the end of the day, stop asking them to raise your hand, especially for those bot names. So the one thing I do want to point out here is if you buy these names, you know enough about them. There's different ways of just saying, refill out this form to get them engaged. New leads, obviously you're needing through digital marketing, they have a little bit different experience because you don't necessarily know who they are until they do an action. Those are people that you do not know the information. And I don't still want to straight up, you go raise your hand, but get those mini experiences so that you're getting little bits of content, just enough to continue that conversation with them and move forward from there.
So we talked about what to stop doing. So what do we need to start doing? And that's where really we're going to invest in lead gen to expand your reach. I mean, you just have to look at this as not necessarily a cost savings opportunity. That's not, I think, what we're recommending is that the budget that you have, it's putting it in resources and putting it in ways that are going to maximize your return on it. It's not to say that we're going to save you X amount of dollars. What we're saying is that you need to invest those dollars better. And so that's what really you need to look at, just more than your email communications, your landing page, and then a potential postcard, or if you're still really old school, sending out that view book. Those fundings, that's where you're going to shift that to really get better results at the end of the day. Again, you're going to segment, you're going to personalize, and you're going to customize. And again, it's not just slapping a name on there. It's not just saying, hey, Corey, glad you're interested. It's really taking that experience and it's customizing it specifically for Corey. And it's saying, you know what? Hey, we know you're from Chicago. You're going to get a Chicago dog here. Don't worry. It's really making that experience true to him and your students. Again, create mini digital experiences like Corey had mentioned. You don't necessarily need to have their name, their email address, their home address, what year they're going to be, that junior or senior. You can gather all that information through mini digital experiences that they don't even realize that they're providing that information, right? The quizzes are a great way for them to give you information and to tell them more about who they are without thinking that, oh, I'm just signing up for yet another email list where they can blow up my email constantly. It's really that engaging aspect of it that they're requiring. And talk about what they want to hear. There are certain messages, there's application pushes, there's affordability pushes that you're going to push out to all students. But students want more information about what they're interested in. And again, the quizzes are a great way to find out, are they interested in, sororities and fraternities if you have those on campus? What are the student engagement? What's the residence halls like? If a student is going to be residential, the residence halls are important. But if the student's going to be a commuter, maybe you don't have to talk too much about the residence halls. Maybe you want to talk about the experience of being a commuter on your campus. So really knowing that information and when they provide the data, when to utilize that data and really talk about the things that they want to hear. And like always, we're here to help. Corey mentioned earlier, we really hope that you take away, nuggets of information that you can take back to your campus today and say, okay, we're going to conquer, or we're going to divide and conquer, and we're going to take on these emails. You're going to take a look at the social. We're going to really start rolling out the plan. That's the goal for these webinars, is we want to give really good information for you to be able to utilize immediately. At the same time, we also are here as a resource for you. So like the digital view book and like the quizzes, we are a full service marketing agency that can support when you're not able to reach out to all those projects. You're not able to do everything on your own. And so we really are here as a support to you to be able to kind of help you get where you need to be.
Definitely. And the thing, Josh, is there is always thinking about what can I do and what is that next step. And for those who, if you're here and you're in charge of budget, great. We know a lot of our people coming to our webinars aren't always in charge of the budget. And so talking about the things that you are passionate about, or you're like, oh my gosh, this is a really great idea, presenting that in a way to your supervisor. If you need Josh to go along with you and have a conversation, he's happy to do that. We want to continue to help influence your enrollment and how your experience is from, we show here, the research. Do you want to look at your numbers and dive deep into what type of students are successful, all the way down to the web development and those digital view books. And even we've done a lot of email writing and auditing to really, even just the audit, sometimes an outside audit can help internally get the support that you need in order to say, yes, we need the change. And of course, as always, we want to open it up for any questions that you do have. I'm going to check the bottom here as well. Any questions in the chat? Not that you have to have questions, but we're happy to answer them.
Just means that we killed it, Corey.
That's what I tell myself every day after work. Yeah, no, I just killed it. Thanks, Kimberly. So we'll end with our same things. We want you to be excellent to each other and party on, dudes. But we are always excited for those who take time out of their day just to come and listen to us rant and rave and chat. These are just things that a lot of times they're soapboxes from us from all of our years. Sometimes there's things that we influenced in our previous institution. Some things, there were things that we got our hands slapped, we're never allowed to touch over our experience. So as you're going through that information, that's something to think about, is how can you push it? And not every one of your ideas may go through, but keep pushing, keep trying to strive to that as you're going through. And so, yeah, we really, really, really thank you for coming. And if you go ahead, Josh.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, yeah, we really do appreciate it. I mean, Corey and I, we have sat through many webinars that you're just like, oh my gosh. So we really do value your time that you come and connect with us. And we really do hope that this is helpful for you all. But reach out to us, all of our information here is available to you. Find us on LinkedIn, connect with us. We really are here to be a support for you all, and to really, even sometimes, I just had a session with a colleague that was just like group therapy for an hour, and just talking through some things. And so we really are here to support you. We know that you're doing the great work on our campuses and really educating the future. So we appreciate everything you are. And yeah, reach out to us. We'd love to connect, and make sure to keep an eye out for our next webinar.
Yeah, and Jenna, I do see your question. How do we get our leadership to see the value of using means and gifts? This one's, this is a slippery slope. It is leadership by leadership. I always found to be, instead of trying to say we want to use memes in everything that we do, is to find specific instances that you can put it in that isn't as pushing the envelope, and show that it can be successful. So I think, man, it's been many years ago, but we did a push on, it was probably a Twitter push when the application went live. And it was just as simple. It was the Bruce Almighty, where Jim Carrey is answering all the emails and his fingers are just going crazy. It was just a simple one. It wasn't that important. And it was all about, pushing the app. And we had great interaction, great comments to it, which allowed me to be like, you know what, it works a little bit. And then, just start pushing the envelope a little by little. If you have someone that's very much against it. And then, I joke, but you find as much research as you can that supports your argument. So don't just go in and say, we want to use a means and gifts because students like it. Well, no, let's find, look up some data, see what's out there that says, students they do react more to gifts versus just static images. And that just goes straight to, you're not even getting into the funny meme gifts yet, but even just gifts of, digital display. So you can find something to support your argument generally, and then start moving to the meme side of it, and finding those little nuggets. I know similar to Josh when he said that the deposits, they sent a GIF or meme through text. We had a survey when it was really kind of time where were you coming, were you not, right after May 1. We wanted to try to get a better idea where our class was. So it had Grumpy Cat and a couple other no, I'm not interested in attending Grumpy Cat, and it had a bunch of different things there. And it was, at that point, they're not responding anyway. This is a great point. They're not responding anyway. What's the harm of having a little fun with it to see if you can get some? So that argument made it more valuable to our leadership to be like, okay, go ahead and try it because we want more students. And if this gets any, let us do it. I know that's not a definitive answer because I don't know who the leadership is at your particular school, but that's generically what I would say.
And sometimes asking for forgiveness is better than asking for permission.
Gosh, get him in trouble.
Within reason, we are not saying do not put your job in jeopardy here for it. But when you're communicating, and so as an admissions counselor, I was communicating through emails and through text and so forth, but maybe integrating that in a one-on-one conversation that then you can give you more valuable data, can say, hey, I sent this out to 10 of my students, all 10 opened it. And so I think what if we did start incorporating some of this into the larger communication scheme. So yeah, I mean, but again, be very, very, very cautious when choosing to ask for forgiveness over permission. So.
And then Callie said, we just discovered they have ping data. I'm unsure where to start. Any first recommendations? I did put a clarifying. When I hear ping, I think of Slate. I'm not sure if that's the only place that ping would come up, but if that is the case, okay, great. It is. I believe, and Josh, you've had more experience Slate, but I believe there are user groups out there. There's forums and things to gather from some of the clients I worked with that use Slate. And Josh, I'll let you take it from here.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, ping is wonderful in terms of it tracks everything the student is doing on your website and where you've placed ping. It can get into a very deep, very dark rabbit hole very, very quickly. And when you're looking at the timeline, it can really make it more difficult to see kind of the communications that fall in line as well too. So one thing I will say about ping is you can filter in your timeline. You can say include ping. You can say exclude ping, because when you're communicating with the student, it can muddy up the waters a little bit. But ping is great because you can query off of it. You can also, and again, we're going to start to get down a deep hole here, but you can start creating communications that if they go on this website through ping, then send them this communication. You can also add in the logic that says if they visited this page, put this snippet in there so that they can see that financial affordability is something that happens on our campus. So you really can utilize it in a lot of different ways. But it can get pretty hairy pretty quickly. And if you do kind of start branching out and utilizing this in some of the communications, and even if you don't in your personalization, make sure you test. I cannot say enough, test to make sure that the information is correct and that all the hard work that you're doing is actually going for the right thing.
Yeah, and bite size. If you're doing, I think they're within Ping, you're also allowed to say not only if they go to the site, but if they're on this site for at least 30 seconds and open to email. You can make criteria of, like, if you say just open 3 emails and then move them from, if they're a search student, move them to inquiry, that might not be where you want to leave that. It may be you want them to open 3 emails and spent more than 30 seconds on the website. It's really kind of what you decide that to be. And again, what is that internal hand raise without making them do a form? Is really kind of, that's some of the thoughts that we had when we say don't make them raise their hand. If you have some of that other data, find out what that means to your institution and continue to tweak as you learn about how it does and does not. Because after 1 year, if you use that as, how many of your students were changed to inquiry based on Ping results, seeing how they matriculate might give you more understanding of, yep, we are right on. Nope, we're a little too tight or a little too loose. Let's tighten this up, so that it makes more sense. So that, again, we're getting the right students in at the right time. All right. Again, appreciate it. To answer the question that came through, this is recorded and will be sent out to everyone, both who attended and did not attend but signed up. So they are going to get some information as well. So if you need anything or context there, again, and we hope you have a great day and a great weekend and a day. Take care.
Thanks all.